The 8th time I caught him cheating, Ethan didn't say a word. He calmly grabbed a bottle of concentrated bleach and poured it directly over his crotch. Is this enough? His face was deathly pale. He looked at me through the mess on the floor, as if he were looking at a psycho. This was the first time in his life Ethan had ever shown weakness to me. I stood frozen, clutching a sharp piece of broken porcelain, suddenly feeling completely lost. After all, during our worst fight, I had strapped a bomb to myself, forcing him to choose between us. He responded by tying himself and my parents to 5 trucks connected end to end. He had smiled and asked me if I still wanted him to choose. That was our decade of mutual madness. No choosing, no backing down, no letting go. Now he looked at me with pity, as if he found my state pathetic. Leave Chloe alone. She's normal. She's not like you. I'll take whatever revenge you want this time. You can take it all out on me. I froze. What do you mean? His smile didn't reach his eyes. He pulled his lips back in a tired smirk. It means I'm giving up. Aren't this what you wanted? Yes. He gave up, but for whom? The answer was obvious. Hatred in his eyes made my 10 years of devotion look like a pathetic, one-sided joke. At that moment, a wave of pure exhaustion hit me. I finally wanted to let us both go. While I was lost in thought, the porcelain shard slipped and sliced my wrist. Blood instantly gushed out. An annoyed look of "here we go" again flashed across Ethan's face. He stared at me for a few seconds, then suddenly strode over, grabbed me, and threw me into the bathtub with no expression. The ice-cold water soaked through my clothes. The moment I realized what he was doing, I began to struggle frantically. Ethan, I am pregnant. Shut up, he growled, cutting off my words brutally. He pinned my wrists above my head, staring down at me for a few seconds. His eyes were filled with disgust. Didn't you drug me just to get me into bed? Was my performance not enough to satisfy you? I froze in disbelief, a sense of absolute absurdity washing over me. I don't know where I got the strength, but I broke free from his grip. I grabbed whatever was near me and threw it at him like crazy. Get out. Get the hell out. He didn't dodge. He took the hits nimbly, as if he were already used to it. When I finished venting, he wiped the blood dripping from his forehead without a shred of warmth. He walked away. I recovered the videos you secretly recorded. Whether you want to send them to the media or plaster them all over the city's billboards, you used to stalk and threaten me, are on the flash drive on the desk. Do whatever you want with them. He assumed I wouldn't let this go, so he laid out all the ways I could ruin him because those, at least, were consequences he could handle. He was afraid of me. This realization made me laugh until tears came out. Ethan, then why don't you just divorce me? His footsteps stopped at the doorway. He seemed to find it hilarious. Would you even agree, Scarlett? I've accepted that I'm stuck with you for life. The last shred of hope in my heart shattered. Just please leave Chloe alone. Those words, followed by the deafening slam of the door, made my head spin for a long time. This was the 3rd time I had heard Ethan say the word please. First time was when we were 18. His billionaire father had his private security guards beat him bloody to force him to break up with me. He was bruised and battered, but he just wiped the blood from his mouth and said, I'm marrying Scarlett. Please disown me or beat me to death. I don't care. The 2nd time was during my postpartum depression. He had rushed onto the rooftop, dragging me back just as I had 1 foot over the edge. He was shaking all over. We can have another baby. Please don't leave me. I'll jump with you right now. And this was the 3rd time. Only this time, he was begging me to spare Chloe. My lips curled into a bitter smile. Tears mixed with the blood dripping into the tub. Shaking, I reached for my phone, but my finger accidentally swiped the emergency contact. I thought no one would answer, just like always. Just as I was about to hang up, Chloe's voice drifted through the speaker. Ethan, a cold shower will make you sick. Let me help you. Ethan's muffled voice came through, mixed with the sound of running water. No, I don't want to hurt our baby or you. Chloe paused, a hint of a smug smile in her tone. Then, why don't you go find Scarlett? Without waiting for his answer, I hung up. I didn't need to hear the rest to know Ethan's reply wouldn't be pretty. After all, the last time I really had drugged him. After that wild, disastrous night, the way he looked at me was cold enough to pierce my soul. Yet I had still naively hoped that if we had another baby, maybe we could start over. Over sin. And now I touched my flat stomach, feeling like a complete joke. After a while, I dragged myself out of the tub. Then I texted my lawyer and told him to draft a divorce agreement. Once that was done, I leaned against the headboard, feeling completely empty inside. When Ethan came home at 11 p.m., he acted as if nothing had happened. He carried a shopping bag containing a necklace I had casually mentioned a few weeks ago. Come to think of it, he had been extremely good to me this past year. He reported his whereabouts proactively, took me to every business dinner, and bought me countless designer bags and jewelry. If I hadn't run into him at the hospital last week holding Chloe's hand at her prenatal checkup, I would have believed our love had reignited. I never would have guessed that his kindness was just a calculated move to protect Chloe from me. While I was lost in thought, the gift box was pushed in front of me. His voice was calm, showing no emotion whatsoever. I went to Chloe's place this afternoon. I only took a shower and left. It took 30 minutes. You, and ask your private investigator if you don't believe me. After that, I was working overtime at the office. If you are suspicious, ask your spies in the company. On the way home, I bought the necklace you wanted. I didn't go anywhere else. The paparazzi you hired should have sent you the photos by now. Every word was cautious and formal, as if I were some terrifying monster. Even though he had already bribed my people and turned them into Chloe's secret bodyguards, he was still on guard against me. My heart ached, but I couldn't help but laugh. Is that so? If Chloe hadn't added me on Snapchat this afternoon, I actually would have believed him. I slid my phone over. The screen displayed a stream of photos Chloe had sent me. Ethan cooking, then mopping the floor, even Ethan clumsily picking out baby clothes. Over 300 photos from every angle. It was a side of Ethan I had never seen in my memory. Ethan never did chores. Even when the maid took a week off, he wouldn't even notice if we ran out of toilet paper. I stared at those photos for a long time. I had truly lost this 10-year game. The last photo, showing his back as he walked away, was taken 30 minutes ago. The light shattered instantly. The moment Ethan saw the screen, his pupils dilated. He slammed me against the wall, his hand gripping my throat. He spat out every word through gritted teeth. I not tell you to keep your hands off Chloe. You can do whatever the hell you want to me, but not her. My lower abdomen throbbed with sharp pain. My face turned pale, but he didn't notice. Looking at his frantic state, I smirked mockingly. As long as I don't touch her, I can do whatever I want to you. I shoved him away with all my might, wine bottle from the table, and held it threateningly over his head. He froze for a second, then he let out a sigh of relief and closed his eyes. Smash it if you want. When he opened his eyes again, his gaze drifted past me. He looked exhausted, not even wanting to look at me. It's not the first time anyway. Once you are done venting, just don't go after Chloe. I stood there, bottle raised, suddenly feeling like everything was incredibly meaningless. I set the bottle down and took my phone back from his hand. The moment my finger touched the screen, his face twisted in panic. He grabbed my wrist tightly. What are you sending your people to do to Chloe now? He used so much force that the momentum threw me backward. I stumbled and fell hard onto the floor. My vision went black for a moment. Before I could recover, I looked up at him. His chest rose and fell, his face pale with fear. He really loved Chloe to death. I loved her so much that even my normal breathing made him defensive, terrified that I would hurt her. I smiled bitterly. Ethan, actually a special ringtone he set for Chloe cut me off. His hand, which had been reaching out to help me up, froze. Without hesitation, he pulled out his phone. Chloe's crying voice leaked through the speaker. His expression darkened instantly. When he looked back at me, his eyes were dripping with disgust and warning. Scarlett, as long as I am alive, I won't let you touch a single hair on Chloe. If you want to drag us both to hell, don't blame me for being ruthless. The door slammed shut so fast. It was so fast that I didn't even get to finish my sentence. I sat there in silence, then let out a soft laugh. I wanted to say, actually, I already signed the divorce papers. They'll be delivered tomorrow morning. I've decided to let you go, and let myself go. But now it seems there's no need to say anything at all. I was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. 4-month-old baby couldn't be saved. Coupled with the fall and the stress from my fight with Ethan, the hemorrhage came with no warning. As I was wheeled into the emergency room on a gurney, I passed Ethan, who was carrying Chloe in his arms. His sleeves were rolled up, revealing the messy scars on his forearms. I felt a sudden pang of irony. Years ago, during my postpartum depression, Ethan had cut himself dozens of times just to force me to stop hurting myself. Back then, his love was even crazier than mine. Later, when he cheated on me 7 times, I self-harmed, lost my mind, and tried every trick in the book. But he would always find a more ruthless way to hurt himself, forcing me to back down. We were like 2 toxic extreme gamblers, betting our own lives against each other. We were exactly the same, but this time, why was it different? Before I could figure it out, Ethan had already carried Chloe to the doctor. Doctor, save her. Her stomach hurts. Check her now. The doctor pushed him away, anxiously. Move. It's just stress. Can't you see Scarlett is in critical condition? Ethan's eyes followed the doctor's hand. The moment he recognized me, he froze. The next second, he grabbed my wrist, his eyes burning with fury. Scarlett, is this your new trick? First you leak Chloe's photos to stress her out, forcing me to bring her to the nearest private clinic, which happens to be yours. Now you are faking a medical emergency to delay her treatment. He sneered, a perfect trap. You really are something. I had already lost too much blood. His rough grip made my vision fade. The doctor was horrified. What do you mean faking? She's hemorrhaging because she was preg. His words were cut off by the heavy thud of Ethan's knees hitting the floor. Is this enough? Can Chloe be treated now? I stared at him. The man kneeling before me looked nothing like the proud Ethan who would rather die than bend his spine. Seeing me silent, he knelt there, staring at me, with eyes full of hatred. What about now? Looking into his eyes, I finally understood.
He was forcing me.
He was betting on my love for him, using himself as leverage to win the game, just like he did 1,000 times before. Only this time, it was for another woman. My chest felt so tight, I could barely breathe. I couldn't tell if it was the blood loss or the heartbreak. Fine, his voice shook suddenly. He pulled a pocket knife from his pocket and plunged it straight into his own chest. Blood bloomed across his shirt instantly. He groaned, his voice turning desperate and broken. Scarlett, I yield. Do whatever you want of me. Take my life. All the warmth left my body. I closed my eyes. Ethan, what if I'm not faking? What if I'm actually dying today? He didn't hesitate. I'll die with you. I knew he meant it, but that was why I felt so utterly defeated. I forced a weak smile and looked at the doctor. Save her first. I was the majority shareholder of this private clinic. If Ethan hadn't been completely panicked, he would never have risked bringing Chloe here. Hearing this, Ethan let out a sigh of relief. His tears hit the floor as he stood up.
His voice was raspy. Thank you.
Such a foreign word, just like the stranger he had become. Before I blacked out, I saw Chloe peeking over his shoulder. She looked at me and smirked. It was the smug, triumphant smile of a winner. When I woke up again, the first thing I saw was a white ceiling. The second was the empty chair beside my bed. The nurse noticed I was awake and sighed in relief. Mrs. Hart, don't move. You lost a lot of blood. My hand instinctively drifted to my stomach. It was flat. Even though I already knew the answer, tears still slid silently down my face. My baby. The nurse lowered her eyes. I'm sorry. I laughed quietly. Not because it was funny. Because after 10 years of fighting Ethan, after all the screaming, bleeding, and destroying each other, our child had been the one to pay the price. 3 days later, I was discharged. When I arrived home, the mansion was strangely quiet. The nanny was packing away tiny baby clothes we had secretly bought together months ago. Neither of us spoke. I simply walked into the nursery. The walls were painted pale yellow. The crib Ethan had assembled himself still stood in the corner. I remembered him spending an entire Saturday cursing at the instruction manual. Back then he had laughed. If it's a daughter, she'll have everything. If it's a son, he'd pause dramatically. I'll still spoil him. That version of Ethan felt like someone from another lifetime. I closed the nursery door. Without another glance, I instructed the servants. Donate everything. That afternoon, my lawyer arrived. The divorce agreement has been delivered. I nodded. Did he sign? The lawyer hesitated. He tore it apart. Of course he did. He said if you want a divorce, you'll have to see him personally. I wasn't surprised. Even now, Ethan still believed I was playing another psychological game.
He thought I wanted him to panic.
To chase me.
To beg.
He had no idea. I had already stopped wanting to win. That evening, the front door opened. Ethan walked in. His chest was wrapped in fresh bandages from where he'd stabbed himself. Our eyes met. Neither of us spoke. Finally, he placed a new copy of the divorce papers onto the coffee table. Only, every page had been shredded and taped back together. You forgot these. His voice was cold. I fixed them. I stared at the mangled papers. You think this is another stunt? I know it is. His answer came instantly. You've threatened divorce 43 times. You've hired actors. Forged pregnancy reports. Called the police. Set our bedroom on fire. So, what's today's performance? His expression didn't change. I'll cooperate, but I'm not divorcing you. I looked at him quietly. You really think I still want to keep you? He frowned for the first time. You don't. I smiled. A tired, almost peaceful smile. The baby died. Silence. Complete silence. Ethan didn't react. Instead, he looked at me as though trying to figure out whether the sentence was another trap. Then, he laughed. A strained, disbelieving laugh. Scarlett, enough. I'm done guessing. If you're trying to make me guilty, the medical records are in your email. I interrupted calmly. The surgery report, the pathology report, the death certificate. I signed the cremation consent yesterday. His voice stopped. Completely. I watched every bit of color drain from his face. His breathing became uneven. No. He immediately pulled out his phone. His fingers shook so violently that he couldn't unlock it. After 3 failed attempts, he finally opened his email. 1 report, 2 reports, 3 reports, each stamped, each signed. each impossible to fake. His eyes scanned the line again and again. Pregnancy terminated due to traumatic hemorrhage. He stood frozen, like someone whose entire world had suddenly stopped moving. Then he whispered, "No."
He looked at me.
His lips trembled. The day you pushed me." His pupils contracted violently. His voice cracked. "I didn't know. You never let me finish." I answered softly. "I tried 3 times. The bathroom, the living room, and before you left for the hospital. Every time, you chose Chloe." His phone slipped from his hand. It hit the marble floor with a sharp crack. Neither of us looked at it. Ethan slowly sank onto the sofa. His shoulders shook. For 10 years, I had watched this man survive everything. His father's abuse, corporate wars, assassination attempts, bankruptcy scares. He had never cried. Not once. Now, he covered his face with both hands. A broken sob escaped through his fingers. It was the ugliest sound I had ever heard. And somehow, it no longer made me feel victorious. Only tired. Very, very tired. Ethan sat there for a long time. The room was so quiet that the ticking of the grandfather clock sounded deafening. Finally he spoke. "Where?" His voice was hoarse. "Where is our baby?" I looked at him calmly. "In the cemetery. I buried our child yesterday." "You were busy with Chloe." Those 6 words shattered whatever composure he had left. He staggered backward, as though someone had punched him in the chest. "No, I would have gone." "You didn't know." I corrected him. "You didn't ask." His lips parted, but no words came out. For the first time in years, Ethan didn't have an argument. Didn't have a comeback. Didn't accuse me of lying. Because every accusation he'd made over the past year suddenly came crashing back onto him. Every time I'd try to tell him something. Every time he'd interrupted. Every time he'd assumed the worst. Every single time, he had chosen not to listen. That night, Ethan disappeared. I didn't call. I didn't text. I simply signed the remaining legal documents. The next morning, my assistant rushed into the study. "Mrs. Hart, Mr. Hart, he hasn't shown up to the board meeting." I didn't even look up. "Then let the vice president chair it." "No, he was found at the cemetery." My pen paused. When I arrived, it was raining. Ethan was kneeling in front of a tiny, white headstone. He hadn't moved. His expensive suit was soaked through. His hands were covered in mud. There were hundreds of fresh flowers scattered around the grave. Some were still wrapped. Some had already been crushed beneath his knees. The caretaker whispered to me, "He came before dawn. He keeps apologizing." I walked closer. The headstone was painfully simple. Baby Hart. Loved forever. No name, because we had never gotten the chance to choose one. Ethan reached out with trembling fingers and touched the engraving. I'm sorry Daddy wasn't there. I'm sorry Daddy thought Mommy was lying. I'm sorry." His voice completely broke. "I killed you." The last sentence echoed through the cemetery. He lowered his forehead onto the cold stone. His shoulders shook violently. "I promised I'd protect you. I couldn't even protect your mother." Rain mixed with tears until there was no difference between them. For nearly an hour, he just kept apologizing. To someone who could never answer him. When he finally noticed me standing behind him, he slowly turned around. His eyes were swollen red. He looked years older than he had just yesterday. He stood, then immediately knelt in front of me instead. Not dramatically. Not to manipulate me. Simply, as if he truly had nothing left. "I was wrong. I know. I don't deserve forgiveness. I know. I don't deserve another chance. I know." Each answer came calmly. Without hatred. Without sarcasm. Without emotion. That frightened him more than any screaming ever had. He grabbed the corner of my coat. "Scarlett, please. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you." I looked down at him, then gently removed his hand. "There isn't a life together left to make up." His face froze. "You remember what you asked me in the hospital?" His expression slowly turned blank. I continued quietly. "You asked whether I was really dying. I asked you, what if I wasn't pretending?" "You answered, I'll die with you." He nodded weakly. "I meant it. I know." I smiled sadly. "But Ethan, I wasn't asking if you'd die with me. I was asking whether you'd believe me." Silence. His breathing stopped. The realization hit him with terrifying force. The entire tragedy hadn't happened because he loved Chloe. It hadn't happened because Scarlett was crazy. It had happened because somewhere along the way, he had stopped believing a single word she said, even when she was telling the truth. He collapsed back onto the wet ground. This time, he didn't cry, because there were no tears left. Only regret, the kind that would follow him for the rest of his life.